Today's story is about someone very, very small who had a very, very big adventure, and it all began with a kind woman who was very, very lonely. More than anything in the world, she wanted a child, a tiny heartbeat in her quiet home, a soft laugh to echo in her heart. But she had none. Each morning she would sit by her window, watching the birds feed their young and whisper, "If only I had someone to love." One sunny day, she gathered her courage and went to visit a kind old fairy who lived deep in the forest, a fairy known to grant the purest wishes. The fairy smiled gently when she heard the woman's longing. "Ah," she said, her voice like the tinkling of bells, "this is a simple wish to grant." From her pouch, she drew out a single golden barleycorn, shimmering softly in the sunlight, and pressed it into the woman's palm. "Plant this in a flower pot, my dear, and wait. You will see something beautiful." The woman hurried home, her heart fluttering with hope, and planted the magical seed in a pot on her sunny windowsill. Every day she watered it, whispered to it, and dreamed of the tiny miracle it might bring. Soon, a green sprout poked through the soil, curling toward the light, and before long it grew into a tall stem with a single beautiful bud. It looked like a tulip, only more perfect, its petals closed tight as if holding a secret. The woman leaned close, enchanted by its beauty. "What a lovely flower!" she whispered, and unable to resist, she placed a gentle kiss on its red and yellow petals. In that instant, pop! The flower bloomed open and the woman gasped. For nestled in the heart of the blossom sat a tiny, perfect girl, no bigger than her thumb. Her skin was soft as rose petals, her hair fine as spun gold, and her smile as bright as morning light. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You shall be called Thumbelina," she said softly, "for you are no bigger than my thumb." She crafted for her a little bed from a polished walnut shell, lined with soft rose petals for a blanket, and gave her a plate of violets and dewdrops for supper. Thumbelina was the joy of her life. She sang in a voice so sweet it was like music from heaven, played in a bowl of water with a flower petal for a boat, and each day brought laughter and life to the lonely cottage. The woman's heart was full again until one fateful night. The window had been left open to the cool summer breeze. As Thumbelina slept peacefully in her walnut shell bed, a huge, warty toad hopped onto the windowsill. Her eyes gleamed with mischief as she looked at the sleeping girl. My," croaked the toad, "what a perfect little wife for my son." And without another thought, she scooped up the walnut shell, Thumbelina and all, and hopped out into the night. The poor woman awoke to find her window empty and her little girl gone, and her cry of sorrow echoed into the dawn. Down by the marshy riverbank, the toad placed the walnut shell on a large green lily pad in the middle of a muddy pond. Her ugly son, covered in warts and slime, blinked his bulging eyes at Thumbelina and croaked, "Pretty, pretty." "Yes," said the mother toad, "and tomorrow she shall be your bride." Thumbelina awoke to find herself surrounded by murky water and croaking voices. She began to cry bitterly, her tiny heart pounding with fear. "I want to go home," she wept. The toad only chuckled. "Nonsense, little one. You'll thank me soon enough." Then, leaving her alone on the lily pad, the toads went to prepare the muddy house for the wedding. But below the surface of the pond, some kind little fish had heard her weeping. They swam up and looked at the poor girl trembling on the leaf. "She shouldn't marry a toad," they whispered. So working together, they nibbled and nibbled until, snap! The thick green stem broke. The lily pad began to drift gently down the river, carrying Thumbelina far away from the toads. The sun sparkled on the water, and the breeze carried her along like a little green boat. Soon a beautiful white butterfly fluttered by. Seeing her plight, it perched beside her, and she tied her sash around its body so that it could pull her faster downstream. Thumbelina laughed through her tears, her spirit lifting as the river carried her away from danger. But her happiness did not last long. From above came a loud buzzing sound. A June beetle swooped down from the trees, shiny and brown, and before Thumbelina could move, he grabbed her around the waist with his hard claws and flew high into the forest canopy. "Look what I've found!" He boasted to his beetle friends. "A strange creature. Isn't she beautiful?" But the other beetles looked her over critically. "Beautiful," one sneered. "No wings, no antennae, how plain. Look at her legs, so thin." The beetle's pride turned to shame. "You're right," he muttered. And without another thought, he dropped her gently at the foot of the tree and flew away. Poor Thumbelina was left alone in the vast, dark forest. Summer turned to autumn. The nights grew cooler, and Thumbelina made herself a little shelter from grass and leaves. She drank the morning dew and ate tiny bits of honey from flowers. Birds sang overhead, and sometimes she danced among the petals to keep her spirits bright. But then winter came. The flowers withered, the trees grew bare, and snow began to fall thick and cold. Thumbelina's leaf dress could not protect her from the chill. She wandered through the icy fields, shivering so badly she could barely walk. "I will freeze," she whispered. "I wish I were home." Then through the snow she saw a small dark hole at the edge of a cornfield. Gathering her courage, she crawled inside. It was warm and smelled of grain. It was the home of a kind old field mouse. The mouse looked up in surprise as the tiny frozen girl stumbled in. "Oh, my stars! A child!" cried the mouse. Come in, my dear. You'll freeze out there." She brought Thumbelina inside, wrapped her in bits of soft moss, and gave her a thimble full of soup. "You poor thing," said the mouse kindly. "Stay with me through the winter. You can tell me stories and keep my house tidy." Thumbelina agreed gratefully, and for a time she was safe and warm again. One day, the mouse received a visitor, her neighbor, Mr. Mole. He was wealthy and respectable, but gloomy and blind, living deep underground and despising the sun. "What a fine young lady," he said, peering in Thumbelina's direction. "She should marry well." The mouse beamed. "Why, Mr. Mole, what a wonderful idea!" Thumbelina's heart sank. She could not imagine living underground forever, never feeling the sun or seeing the flowers. Yet the mouse kept telling her how lucky she would be to have such a husband. One afternoon, as they walked together through one of Mr. Mole's dark tunnels, they came upon a small, cold shape on the ground. "It's only a bird," said the mole. "Useless thing. It probably froze to death." But when Thumbelina leaned close, she saw that the swallow's chest still faintly moved. "He's alive!" she whispered. That night, when the others slept, Thumbelina crept back through the tunnel with a bit of soft moss and laid it gently over the swallow's body. "Don't die, please," she murmured. "You are not alone." She brought him food and water, warming him with her tiny hands. Slowly, as the days passed, the swallow's eyes fluttered open. "Dear child," he whispered weakly, "you have saved my life." Through the long winter, Thumbelina cared for him in secret, and he told her stories of warm lands far away where the sun shone all year and flowers never faded. When spring returned, the swallow grew strong again. "Come with me," he said one morning. "Fly away to the lands of light." Thumbelina's eyes filled with tears. "I can't," she said softly. "The field mouse has been kind to me." So the swallow kissed her tiny hand and flew away into the blue sky. But the mouse was already planning her wedding to Mr. Mole. "It is settled," she said. "You'll marry him before the next winter. Think how lucky you are." Thumbelina tried to smile, but her heart ached. "I can't live underground forever," she whispered to herself. On the day of the wedding, she went outside one last time to say goodbye to the sun. The golden light warmed her face, and she whispered, "Farewell, dear sun." "Farewell, flowers." Just then, she heard a familiar sound, a soft tweet-tweet. She looked up, and there was her friend, the swallow, swooping down from the sky. "Come, Thumbelina," he cried. "The cold is coming again. Fly away with me now." Thumbelina's heart leapt. She climbed onto his back, and with a rush of wings, they soared into the air. The world fell away beneath them, the fields, the rivers, the mountains. They flew over forests that glittered with dew, over silver lakes, and across the great blue sea. The wind sang through her hair, and for the first time she felt truly free. At last they reached the warm lands of the south. The air was filled with the scent of blossoms and the songs of birds. The swallow carried Thumbelina to a shining garden, where flowers as large as bowls bloomed in every color imaginable. "This is my home," said the swallow. Choose any flower you like, and I will set you down." He placed her gently on the soft white petals of a great bloom, and Thumbelina looked around in wonder. For sitting in the heart of the flower was a tiny man, no bigger than she, with wings of gold and a crown that sparkled like morning dew. "Who are you?" Thumbelina asked shyly. "I am the king of the flower angels," he said, smiling. "And who are you, beautiful one?" "My name is Thumbelina," she replied. The king's eyes shone. "You are the most lovely being I have ever seen. Will you stay here and be my queen?" Thumbelina looked around at the golden light, the gentle blossoms, the singing birds, and felt her heart fill with peace. "Yes," she whispered, "I will." The flowers swayed in joy, and tiny angels danced through the air, bringing her a pair of shining wings so she could fly beside her new husband. Bells of blossoms rang in the warm wind as the swallow sang above them, and all the creatures of the garden came to celebrate the happiest wedding the flower kingdom had ever seen. But sometimes, on quiet evenings, when the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold, Thumbelina would stand on a petal and look toward the north, her eyes soft with memory. "I hope she knows I'm safe," she would whisper, thinking of the kind woman who had kissed a flower and wished so hard for a child. And far away, in a little cottage with a sunny window, that woman would still look at the empty walnut shell and smile softly to herself. "Wherever you are, my little one," she would say, "I hope you are happy." And so Thumbelina lived happily ever after, her heart forever grateful for kindness, courage, and love as small and yet as boundless as she was herself. Do you love this magical tale, my dear friends? Then please like, share, and subscribe for more beautiful stories from the heart.